glad you're here. So happy you're here. Let's dive in. So every year when I was a youth pastor, we would do a lock-in at the church, okay? And if you're not familiar with lock-ins, that's when it was up here at the church. I would go from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., okay, all night long, mind you. And we stayed up. A lot of us would stay up all night, especially the adults, and just play various games, competitions, whatnot. And students loved it. The parents and sponsors tolerated it. And me being the youth pastor, I did enjoy it, but I could physically only do it one day a year. Okay, that's all I could do. But at the beginning of the evening, okay, we'd start in the gym, and at 8 o'clock or about 8:30, I would just kind of silence everybody, tell everybody, gather around, turn the music down. If they got basketballs in their hands, hey, everybody, hold your ball. I need to explain something, okay? And it was the ground rules, okay? Because many kids, this is their first time. They don't know me. They don't know who I am. They don't know what a youth pastor is. They didn't know our church, And so when I was explaining to them who I was and, by the way, when we play this night game in the sanctuary, you can't go on the stage. They didn't know what a sanctuary was, okay? That happened more than once. And so the ground rules were very important, very necessary, and very clear, okay? I would not be yelling these ground rules. I would just be talking calmly what they were, okay? I had to be very stern, but also very loving and kind, okay? The students knew that if they had any hope of surviving the night, that they had to heed my instructions, okay? That they had better listen and obey to me. And at the same, so I had to be stern, but at the same time, I needed them to know that I was happy to see them. I wanted to get to know them. So I had to convey that I'm on their team, and at the same time, I've got expectations that they need to listen to. I had to walk that line, be firm and loving, strong yet kind. There was not many rules, but the rules that I shared with them were of the utmost importance because the rules were there to protect them, to help them throughout the longest night of their young lives. Now this morning, we are going to learn about God's ground rules for his people, Israel. We're going to be in the Old Testament book of Exodus again. And maybe if you're new, just to recap you, to bring you up to speed. God's people were in slavery in Egypt for 400 years, and God called Moses to lead his people out of Egypt. Pharaoh wouldn't let them go. God gave Pharaoh 10 chances to let them go. There was 10 strikes against Egypt, and they didn't work to no avail, right? Pharaoh kept hardening his heart. But the last one was the clincher. And Pharaoh let them go. But then he changed his mind. And the Pharaoh sent the best of his horsemen, the chariots, and they didn't know if they were going to be captured again or killed. They weren't for sure, but they were coming down, and the people were at the Red Sea, and it didn't look good. They were defenseless. They didn't have any weapons. It looked like game over or go back to Egypt. But then God made a way where there was no way and split the waters, and the people miraculously walked through on dry ground. The Egyptians pursued, got stuck in the muck and the mire. The waters came over them, and in one fell swoop, they were free, truly free. Last week we looked at the praise song, that the first praise song that is in the Bible, that's recorded in the Bible. It was sung loudly and proudly, and it was worship to what God had done, and it was all about how God saved his people. And we ended last week with the picture of Miriam, Moses' sister, just kind of with this hand drum thing and just kind of inviting all the ladies, all the people of Israel to go on singing this song. But now reality is setting in, and the drums are put away. Maybe the singing is reduced to a humming, maybe they're still humming that song, but it's hot in the desert, and the sun is beating down on them. The back of their throats are maybe dry from all the singing, the praise and the worship, and thirst is settling in. Now, I don't know if you've gone a day without water, right? Like in our modern, society, probably you haven't. Or maybe you've gone a day. Maybe you went hiking and you just did not bring enough water. So you know the feeling. One day without water, well, really hours, and you get a headache. That's the first sign, right? That you're thirsty. And then I remember when I was in high school, I wrestled in high school, believe it or not. And I, to cut water weight, that was what they told us to do. And so I went, I think a day and a half I went without water. I remember longingly staring at the water fountains, salivating, right? I'm not kidding. I was really, really thirsty. But 3 days, and you're bumping up against what human beings are capable of doing without water, especially in the desert, especially, moving, right? Walking with that sun beating down on you. We need water to survive. So in 1943, there was a guy named Abraham Maslow. I think I'm pronouncing that right, but he proposed his hierarchy of needs in his paper titled A Theory of Human Motivation. And one of our base necessities, right? Water, food, shelter. Like if we have that's the base. But water. If you've seen those Survivor shows, right? Step number 1, locate water. You have to have water to survive. It's extremely important. Now, I say all this because last week we dabbled in it a little bit, but I knew this week was coming, and I want to talk more about it. Israel is entering what is known as a liminal space, liminality. That's a real word. It's a Latin word for threshold. Okay, so if you're standing at a doorway, right? If you're literally just standing there, you're in a liminal space. You're not inside yet, but you're not outside. You're in between. Okay. Anthropologists use this word a lot. That's where you're going to hear about it. This term liminal. When they study people. That's what, anthropologists do. People who experience different seasons of life. We can think back to our childhood and that thing we all hated, but we all went through, puberty, right? I said it, yes, puberty. No one that I knew just, really enjoyed that. It stunk. It was the worst. Everything's changing, your voice, everything. But you have to go through that. It's a space of liminality. Or what about rites of passages? That sort of happens in our culture sometimes, but or imagine a tribe in the rainforest. And it's in their culture that young men are sent off at the age of 13 or so, right? And they're sent off into the wilderness and apart from everyone else, and they have to survive. They have to like kill an animal, maybe, right? And they're out there, they're learning, they're growing, and then when they come back, right, they're different. They are different. They're seen as different. They are not a boy anymore. They're a man, right? Because of that liminal time, that liminal space. They're in between. We all know this space. Whether you're from a jungle or not, you've had rites of passages like that. If you're married, do you remember what it was like to be engaged? Do you remember that? Where you found the love of your life, but you know, like, and you're even making decisions, big decisions, right? Where are you going to live? What's this going to be like? Or even I remember going through Target with that little gun on the registry. I love that thing. But oh, I want that. But you're making decisions. But in the back of your mind, you're like, but we're not married. You're close. You found the one, but you're not married, and both of you know that. Do you remember that feeling? Again, or what about this? Here's the liminal space that I have no idea about. Pregnancy, okay? When you're pregnant, maybe for the first time, you're not a mom, but you are a mom. But you're not a mom. You haven't held the child. You haven't nursed the child. In some cases, you haven't named the child, but you are very much a mother. It's this in-between liminal space where you are, but you're not, but you are. Liminal spaces are not comfortable. We don't like them. No one loves living in a liminal space. That I know. No one loves that. But at best, we tolerate the liminal space. Do you remember? In 2020, do you remember that? Do you remember where all of us were dislocated, right, with COVID? All our normal routines went out the window. All of us, worldwide, at the same time, and there were so many questions and so many things. But you remember the dominant question. What the dominant question is when will things go back to normal? All that we just craved. We craved that. We realized, all of us knew this is not normal. I don't like this. I want things to go back to normal. Well, Israel has just been liberated from Egypt, but they have not made it to their final destination, right? They are in this liminal space, and they are responding much like we would respond, everybody. This is just, yeah. We must remember, there was no Walmart. There was no corner store. They are in the desert, and we just don't, I don't know if we really can appreciate how bad it was. And so they daydream about Egypt. As bad as Egypt was, as bad as slavery was, there was food. There was water. Even slavery had its own predictability about it. They knew what to expect. They knew who was in charge. They knew where to get water, where to get food. Maybe it was rationed, but they knew it. Now, in the wilderness, they're asking, hey, who's in charge? Like, who's really in charge? Where are we going to find water? Where are we going to find food? By the way, where are we going? What's the plan? How long is this going to take? Right? All they were, and so many more questions. Everything they knew about who they were, how to survive, and what was expected changed that fateful night when they escaped from Egypt. Okay, it was great and it was awesome, and yeah, God did amazing things, but now they're in the wilderness, they're scared, and they that dislocated feeling is on them. And they don't know. They don't know how to live under these new conditions and assignments. And who is Yahweh? They don't. I mean, they know, but they don't really know him, right? Like, he saved him. Awesome. And he did. And it's great. But they don't know their liberator. And they don't know who they really are now, because they're free. They're not slaves anymore. And so, again, the dominant question of Exodus is, who is Yahweh and how does he form his people? And what I find amazing is God does not seem to be in a particular hurry or rush to get them out of the liminal space. Okay? He's gotten him out of Egypt. Awesome. But Yahweh still has to get Egypt out of them. Okay? They're no longer slaves. That's how their identity is no longer slaves, but who are they then? If they're not slaves, who are they? Now, why I'm going on and on and on about liminality, because I just know that the Bible doesn't waste words, everybody. Like, whoever penned Exodus could have easily just said, yeah, God redeemed them, they sang a song, and then bam, they're at Mount Sinai. 10 Commandments, right? That's the other memorable image you have, is Moses coming down off the mountain with the 2 stones. But he could have just said that, but he didn't. He goes, there's 3 chapters of this liminal time. And God is setting the ground rules with Israel. And because of that, I'm convinced that God has lessons to teach us that I believe can only be taught in spaces of liminality. And I hate that, but I believe it is true. Now, let's find out what that means, okay? So if you got your Bibles with you, Exodus 15:22 is where we're going to be. You can use your phone. You can open it up, or it'll be on the screen. So Exodus 15, verse 22. Yep. Then Moses led Israel from the Red Sea, and they went into the desert of Shur. For 3 days they traveled in the desert without finding water. 3 days. And when they came to Marah, they could not drink its water because it was bitter. That's why the place is called Marah. It means bitter. So the people grumbled against Moses, saying, "What are we to drink?" So notice, they finally find water. But it's undrinkable. It's really, really bitter. And so can you just, I want you to picture this, a big group of people standing by this water, looking longingly, staring at the water, but they can't drink it, and they grumble to Moses. So Moses, right off the bat, in this space of liminality, he's kind of seen as this intercessor, this go-between between the people and Yahweh. And let's read what happens next in verse 25. Then Moses cried out to the Lord, And the Lord showed him a piece of wood. He threw it in the water, and the water became fit to drink. Okay. Pause here. So let's zero in on this piece of wood. In Hebrew, the word is eitz. That's what it is. It literally means tree. It can mean stick or piece of wood or branch. Depending on the Bible translation you have, I've looked it up. ESV, they translate as log with a footnote that says tree. King James Version says tree. NIV, which is what I'm reading off of, says piece of wood. NRSV says piece of wood. New American Standard says tree. Let's do this. Let's just assume it's tree. That's the basic meaning is tree. Now, here's what I think is going on here. Can we think back in the story where a group of people are around a tree looking at something that they desperately want or need? Class. How about page 3 of your Bibles, Adam and Eve standing at that tree? I know. Here it is again. But I don't think I'm reaching. I really think this is the author's way of creatively bringing us back to that first test. That first test with Adam and Eve. And Genesis 3:6, I've got this, and I believe. Yeah, here we go. When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree, so saw with her eyes, that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. It's the test. Now this time, right? This time in the book of Exodus, this time it's by water. It's not with a tree, but then a tree gets added in. And it's not the fact that they shouldn't drink the water. They can't drink the water. I mean, so yeah, things are different, but I really do. I think this is the test 2.0. Are they going to follow God and what God says, or do what is right in their own eyes? That's truly what I think is going on here. It's a test, and the text says as much. Look at the next line. The next line of verse 25. There the Lord issued a ruling and instruction for them and put them to the test. Put them to the test. To me, and I read lots of people, Bible nerds, commentaries that think that the wood was thrown in and its natural bark and abilities changed the water to sweetness. And that could be. I'm not saying that that's definitely not it. I just think the Hebrew way of reading the story is that this is another test by another tree. And I think it's bringing us back to Genesis. Because we all know what happened there, right? Eve took the fruit and then gave some to her husband that was standing right there. Should have known better. Should have said something. Didn't say anything. He took and ate of it too. And they failed. They failed the test. Now again, we don't like tests. And especially tests that are done in liminal spaces where we're already feeling dislocated, out of sorts. And now there's a test. But what's interesting about this passage is, what was the test? What was the test? Did they pass the test? I mean, the water turned sweet, turned drinkable. So did they pass? So, see, the test actually comes in the very next line, verse 26. Let's read that. He said, this is God saying, if you listen carefully to the Lord your God and do what is right in his eyes, If you pay attention to his commands and keep all his decrees, I will not bring on you any of the diseases I brought on the Egyptians. For I am the Lord who heals you. Again, Yahweh is setting the ground rules here. The people wanted to remember Egypt, or they were remembering Egypt. And Yahweh's reminding them of their last week in Egypt, those 10 plagues. And do you remember what the first plague was? Anybody? Where the Nile River turned to blood, undrinkable water in the Nile River. Egyptians couldn't drink it. It was literally the same word, undrinkable. And look, they dealt with undrinkable water just for a little bit, okay? But then the intercessor Moses took a branch or tree or stick or whatever and threw it in, and now the undrinkable water is drinkable. Now God has their attention, and he says, if you listen to me, if you listen, if you obey me, if you do what is right in my eyes, not your own. Because again, let's just, who would have thought that let's throw that dead tree in there. Hey, that'll work. Who would have thought? Who would have thought about that? Honestly, did that cross your mind as yes, that's a great idea? That story reminds me of the book of Proverbs, Proverbs 3. This is a famous proverb, but Proverbs 3, 5 through 7. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. You know what that tells me? You by yourself would not have thrown a tree into that water. That wouldn't have crossed your mind at all, friends. There is so much in the Bible that is counterintuitive. Okay? Do you know what that word means? So counterintuitive, I looked it up. Webster defines it like this: contrary to intuition or to common sense expectations, but nevertheless true. Okay? Now the Bible is full, friends. It is full of counterintuitive truths. We just celebrated one recently, right? At Christmas time. Jesus came as a baby. No one saw that come. Like we get it now, but no one saw that as a baby, as an innocent little puny scrawny baby. Or what about, just here's an example. So what about Jesus' teaching in the Sermon on the Mount? So Sermon on the Mount is Jesus' just magnus opus of his teachings, his ethical, like, if you want to know, if you're new and you're curious about who Jesus is, what he's about, what he would have been talking about on any given day at the synagogues or on the street corners, you look to Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7. If you have Bibles that have red letters when Jesus is speaking, that's all it is. It's 3 chapters of nothing but Jesus speaking, and it's his most famous sermon. We call it the Sermon on the Mount. Do you want to know how he starts off his most famous sermon? He's and check it out, Matthew chapter 4. All these different people are coming, and it's on this mountain, and he sits down, and then he says this right here: blessed are the. Now, I don't know. I would think rich, powerful, healthy. Blessed are the healthy. No. He says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Really? Happy are you when you are spiritually bankrupt, when you come to the end of yourself, when you realize that you by yourself can do nothing to gain God's favor. When you realize, you tell me what poor in spirit is, friends. That's one of those lines that you're supposed to drink a big cup of coffee and go on a long walk by yourself, turn your phone off, and ask the Lord, what does poor in spirit mean? I think it means something like when you have nothing. Blessed are you. What about the second line? Okay, well, blessed are those who. Oh, man. Let's see. Laughed often. Get 10,000 steps a day. Are married. Have children. Fulfill the American dream. Right? No, wrong again. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Jesus, you must be wrong. Mourning, that involves crying, and that's not good. Well, no, you're wrong. God draws near to those that are hurting, to the crushed in spirit. The psalmist says that the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their cry. The righteous cries out, and the Lord hears them. Well, what about the next line? This is kind of fun, isn't it? Blessed are the powerful. Surely, the powerful, they're the ones that inherit the earth, right? Oh, no, wrong again. The meek. The meek inherit the earth. Are you beginning to see here? Let's go to the next one. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for status, popularity. No. Hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. And then you should read the rest of the Sermon on the Mount. I promise you. It is all about counterintuitive. Like, wait, what? Love your enemy? What? And that's just one example. But I'm telling this book is counterintuitive to your life. It's counterintuitive. The Bible teaches it's better to give than to receive. The world says that's wrong. That can't be right. The Bible teaches to forgive people when they trespass against you. The world says, no, that's weakness. I'm sure more than one person thought Moses was just being foolish. Like, oh, gosh, he's dragging that big stick log tree thing. And what's he? Oh, he's throwing it in the water. What? Jeez. That's wasteful. Now it's dirty. Right? But God directed, that's what the Bible says. God directed Moses to the stick. The most counterintuitive thing in the Bible that I've encountered in God's Word is that to save us, Jesus, the sinless, perfect human being, God in a body, was pinned to a tree. His death gives me life. He had to die so that I could gain everlasting life. The everlasting one had to die so that I could have everlasting life. The world, it can't compute that. It's like a computer that it can't register. It doesn't compute it. It makes no sense. What I just said makes no earthly sense. But it is crystal clear in God's Word. It's crystal clear because the Bible is counterintuitive. When you're reading the Bible this year, right, maybe you picked a reading plan. I encourage you to do that. But what I've been doing is whatever you do, if it's just a verse a day, I don't care. Just ask yourself, where's the counterintuitive part here? And friends, it's always there. Like, it's always there. Because the world would say, put that stick down, it won't do anything. The world would say, oh, don't wash those feet, that stinks. The world would say, staying in debt, oh, that's normal. That's totally normal. Why would you want to get out of debt? That's laughable. The world would say the way up is up. And Jesus says, if you want to go up, you got to go down. You've got to serve. Now, God does not want to bring any diseases that he brought on Egypt to his people. He wants to heal his people. Did you catch that? He was a healer. I want to be a healer, but they have to trust him. Yahweh has to walk that fine line about being stern and loving. And it's going to take time, and it's going to take several lessons. This first one started with water. What do you think the next one's going to be about? Class? Food. Yeah. Manna. Quail. In that whole story. Remember, that's next week. But guess what, though? It's another test. It says it's a test. Are they going to trust him? Are they going to trust him about having enough food? But here's my question. Here's my question to you. To those in a liminal space right now, this is a big room. There's someone, at least one, that's in a liminal space. And right now, no doubt, you just kind of want to put your head down and get through this season. But I have a question for you. Are you open to trusting God in this time in your life? Is he trying to open your eyes to something? Maybe it's something counterintuitive that you can only see with the eyes of faith. Could he be trying to teach you something about himself at this time? Or, are you open to that possibility? Are you open? Again, when we're in liminal, we just kind of want to get through it. But can you look up? Can you open your eyes? And are you listening to him? Are you obedient to him? What if he told you to throw a stick in a puddle of water? Would you do it, or would you scoff? Would you think that's crazy, God? Are you open to that? There we go. Good timing. Okay. Now to the ones that are not in a liminal space, praise God, you're not in a liminal space. Can we just praise God for that? But what about you? You're not off the hook, okay? What did you need to hear today? Perhaps that God is healer. What needs healed in you? Are there notions about God's character, who he is? What is he like? What is he like that needs to be healed? Exodus, again, is about God revealing himself to a people who had stopped believing in him a long time ago. When they were in slavery in Egypt. Is that you? right? How does it strike you that Yahweh refers to himself at this first test as their healer? Were they sick? I mean, we're not really told that they're sick. We are told that they were former slaves just a few days ago, so no doubt that they need to, they need a healing in their identity. Who are they? They need to go from slavery to the beloved, right? And God is going to use time to accomplish this. And to me, it's no coincidence that the last verse in this little section, in this passage, is verse 27. Let's look at that real quickly. Then they came to Elim, where there was 12 springs and 70 palm trees, and they camped near the water. They found paradise. Israel's hierarchy of needs are met. That they're still in a liminal space. They're not there yet. They know that they're not there yet, and tests will be coming, but God is forming them, right? Israel's learning to trust Yahweh. Again, if you listen to me, if you obey me, look at what happens, right? Are you trusting God? How can you trust him more in your life? So whether you're in a liminal space or not, here's what I want to say to you. Life with Jesus is more than singing. Right? Last week it was all about that song and praise, and that's great. But anybody can sing a song. Anybody can. You all can. You all can come and sing, and that's great. I mean, but it seems like what God wants to do in you is to form you. To form you to look less and less like you and more like his son, Jesus Christ. And I guess I just have to ask you, are you ready to be formed? It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be hard. I don't know if somebody told you this Jesus thing is easy, they've lied to you. This is really hard. But it's going to be worth it. You'll feel poor in spirit. You'll mourn. You'll feel meek. But Jesus would say, blessed are you. Blessed are you. You're finally waking up to reality. Let's pray. Oh, Yahweh, be our teacher, won't you? Form us, I pray. May our eyes be open to what you are doing in us and around us. Even when it feels like you're not doing anything, may we trust that you're there. God, I thank you and praise you that your word runs counter to everything that is in me and around me. And God, I know and we know that every single time I've trusted your word, you have proved true. Now it's like going upstream, but it's true. We know it in our bones. God, may we crown you in our mourning, in our weakness. May we crown you in our laughter. May we crown you when it all turns dark. May we crown you for you are faithful. Crown you for you are worthy. Crown you for you are good. May we live in your promises as the world laughs at us. For Jesus, you are the way. You are the truth. You are the life. Bid us to follow, and we will follow. And now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we can ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us, to him be the glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever and ever. Amen.